Hi, and welcome to How to Grow Your Business with Kevin Willett. As you can see, I got my buddy Steve with us. Steve is a business coach. Good morning, Steve. Thanks for taking the time
Good,
to come on the show.
good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So, Steve, before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself in the business.
Sure. I'm Steve DeVries. My practice is called Focal Point Business Coaching. So I act as a business coach for small and medium-sized businesses in the B2B space with a particular focus on manufacturing. So if your company makes something, whether you're an OEM and you've got a unique product, or you're a contract manufacturer, right? Those are places where I tend to fit really well with my clients. I also work with B2B service providers and occasionally a nonprofit as well. And so, what's a business coach do? Well, we like to say that we've been there, we've done that, and we're here to sort of help our clients through the experiences that we've had, guide their business along the way. And so in the best case scenario, we become a co-pilot with our clients in operating their business. So a lot of clients are really good at their product or service. So they might be good at one discipline within the business, but they haven't had the training or the experience on how to manage and operate and lead an entire organization. And that's where people like me come in. So we will come in, we will meet you where you are, right? If you have a particular strength, well, then we're going to work on areas where you don't have a strength. And so we're going to make you a well-rounded leader. And along the way, you're going to grow your business. You're going to retain your talent. You're going to develop your talent. You're going to hopefully build a strategy that works for you so you get what you want out of the business when you want it. Those are all things that we help our clients with.
So, Steve, my question today is outsourcing versus building it ourselves. A lot of
Mm.
my manufacturing friends, they come up with an idea. They're like, well, I can probably build it myself cheaper. And then they try that and they realize it's maybe not as simple. Or they look to outsource and they get overwhelmed. They're like, "Have there's so many options. How do I know who to choose?" What's your advice for someone who's looking to make that decision? How do they know if they should build it or outsource it?
So my advice is do what you do best and delegate the rest or outsource the rest. So if you have a particular core competency in your business and you think that you can get away with doing it cheaper or doing it better, there's a small percentage chance that you could. But in general, the amount of hours that you're going to spend, forget about the money for a second, forget about the cash out the door. Simply put, the amount of hours that you're going to spend as a leader, as a team, as an organization, trying to develop a new skill set in order to be able to produce whatever it is that you are afraid to outsource is incredibly costly. And that's opportunity cost. You could be spending that time growing your business in the areas that are your core competency. And you could be out there selling as opposed to being stuck in your facility trying to figure out how to do this new thing. And so unless that is going to complement your current core competencies and it's going to allow you to grow your business, I wouldn't advise it. I'd go seek an expert. Now, when you choose to, we'll say, insource versus outsource, you've got a couple of other challenges just besides your time spent and the cash out the door for equipment and so forth. You've got to grow your workforce, or you've got to upfit your workforce so that they're now trained in that product or service manufacturing as well. And so if you have to add heads to something that isn't your core competency, that's not going to be terribly efficient. And so now when you start getting into the financials of the entire situation, you realize that the amount of time that you're spending, the added head count, the cash out the door, and guess what? If you're a small business, you're not focusing on the things that you built your business on in the first place. And so there's a lot of risk involved when you choose to insource and develop new capabilities as opposed to outsourcing. So I would always say, look at the total cost of ownership, right? That's a standard business term, total cost of ownership, or look at just the total cost in general of what it's going to take, not just cash out the door and not just a few hours of your time. It's going to be more than that. And so when you do all of that math, chances are it will lead you to the idea of outsourcing because then it's somebody else's headache. Now you're managing one vendor, maybe two, right? They're the ones who have to deal with the headcount. They're the ones who have to deal with the equipment, so on and so forth. And so I like to advocate for outsourcing if it's not core to your business.
Steve, I smiled when you used the term opportunity cost. I swear I bring that term up in class every day because you have to look at it. What's my time worth? I've had a couple friends who were manufacturing their own products and they burnt out because they were the salesperson all day long. And then at the end of the day, they went back to the plant to stop making the products that they sold. And they lasted maybe a year. And then they were so burnt out, they ended up closing the business.
Yeah,
Opportunity cost
absolutely.
is super important, right? Even if that just free time to watch Netflix or whatever you're doing with it,
Absolutely.
you have to think about it though.
Absolutely. And we didn't even talk about, the amount of I guess how thin you spread yourself,
Hmm,
right? The burnout, right? You mentioned it right there. So people think that they have to be experts at everything that go through the business. And so imagine being a small business owner. And let's just take an example. You're making printed circuit board assemblies. And all of a sudden you say, you know what? We want to build the boxes that these printed circuit board assemblies go into. And so now you have to buy all of this equipment to make metal. You're not a metal manufacturer, you're a printed circuit board manufacturer. And so you're going to go down with the ship trying, but what you don't realize is that you will burn out. It's probably going to be cheaper to outsource in the end. And so why put yourself through all of that? And the answer is because small business owners think that they need to have their hands in everything.
absolutely.
And that right there is what stops businesses from growing. When the owner of a small business, or let's say a very small team, two or three people running a small business, they have their tentacles on everything. And whether they're experts at it or not, they feel the need to control it. And that's one of the number one challenges for small business owners is feeling like they need to be experts in everything. And what happens is they become generalists in everything except for maybe their skills, their product. And so they dilute themselves, right? They dilute their ability to really positively affect change in the business because they're control freaks. It's their baby. They don't know how to get away from it. And so as the business coach, I'm here to tell you, you got to stop that because that you are the reason why your business isn't growing in that particular case.
So, Steve, what's the best way for people to get in touch with if they want to talk more about this topic?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can check me out on my website. It's Steve DeVries dot focalpointcoaching.com, or you can call me 603-277-3288.
Steve, I appreciate a few minutes call to show, and as always, thanks for being my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you for being my friend.